Indians writing in English as a literary tradition, so that it's only 150 years old. The first big English work is what, Bankim Chandra, 1860 or 1870 or something.
Hello and welcome to Bibliofile. Today we have Upamanyu Chatterjee, who burst into the Indian literary scene in 1988 with his breakout book English August, which is about this hapless young IAS officer who's put in this godforsaken place. And of course, I know since then he's written many other books, and now today we are discussing his new collection of short stories, the Assassination of Indira Gandhi, as it is called. And would you like to tell us a little bit? I read the stories. They seem to span centuries. They are very eclectic. I mean, they are from very personal to the historical. So how do these stories come about?
The first story, the assassination, predates English August. I had planned a collection of short stories way back in the early 80s. And I had sent this and another story which isn't featured here, but it will come hopefully, inshallah. It will be there in a subsequent volume. And I had sent them to the then agent, who said, "Oh, I like them, but are you doing a novel?"
Yeah.
In fact, English August began as a collection, or in fact, it's complicated. What is now in The Killings in Madna was a self-contained short story, and then that grew out of hand till suddenly I said, okay, the Killings is separate, and just that central character has enough in him to make a book out of. So that was English August, and then I began writing these novels. But throughout my career, I have always, fortunately actually, been jotting down plots and subplots and just stray ideas for short stories, and each time I've been telling myself that let me just finish this book and then I'll do my collection of short stories. That just didn't happen. After Fairy Tales at 50, I said, okay, I'm now sort of sought early retirement. I must finish my collection of short stories. Not all of them have been represented, but it was a pleasure, to work on these, because the difference really is between a marathon and a 100-meter dash. You do in this case, a 5,000-meter run. You do a short story and you say, okay, that's over and done with. Let's get on with the next one. I titled it The Assassination because, for very special reasons, that was the first story to be published.
I must say some of the short stories contained here in this book are, really the quality of an Alice Munro or a, Annie Proulx or even a John Dares. Why is it that in India particularly, short stories are considered somewhat lesser than a book? I mean, every publisher wants a novel.
That's not true for India alone, I think. I don't think people believe that short stories don't sell. And it's true that one approaches a short story differently, in the sense, this is not going to take 1 month to read. This will just be maybe a couple of hours, maximum if it's a long story, a day. So I don't know, because I can't think of, maybe things have changed, but I can't think of a single literature course in any language that has short stories in it as a course of study, which is a pity, because you would learn a lot from the masters, I think.
Yes.
So the answer is I don't know why people don't take short stories.
And of course, the other sort of a lack, others where we are not very good in India is, of course, what your genre of writing, satire and humor, and that is very very rare, at least in English, writing in India. Isn't that?
Well, yeah, in English maybe, but I mean there are great satirists in there are great satirists in Bengali and Marathi and
True.
Hindi and
Yeah, in
Rag Darbari,
Malayalam,
for
yes,
example.
yeah.
Malayalam.
Yeah.
Malayalam, in fact, Vijayan, for example. I mean, there are.
But in English, particularly, somehow it seems like it's considered slightly lighter than this serious literary.
If you look at, and I think eventually you would have to look at Indians writing in English as a literary tradition, so that it's only 150 years old. The first English work is what, Bankim Chandra, 1860 or 1870 or something. So it will develop in the sense that, and you can see it happening in a search for the depth of a tradition. You obviously you move away from Greek and Roman mythology. You turn to Hindu mythology, for example. And sooner or later you would have books that refer to earlier books written in English in India. I mean, that's inevitable. It's going to happen. So this is the early days yet, actually.
And some of the stories in this, for instance, history lessons, which takes place. Would you like to tell a little bit about the story itself?
Yeah. Well, I can. They fall into different categories. There are, for example, some based on real life events, where you read something in the newspaper, and you see, that would make a story. There are some that are based on tribute to works that I've liked very much. One of them was we studied, in fact, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Coleridge's poem. I studied it 4 times. In school, and then in college, and then again in MA. And I taught it for 1 year. I still remember when I first read it, I said, this is incomprehensible unless you see it as an acid trip. And no teacher will tell you that, look, this is just stone, and this is an acid trip. And that's slowly revealed to you over the decades. And then I said, it's a kind of tribute. So that and history lesson. History lesson is, when I first read Thomas Rowe, I read indiscriminately, so that's the reason. I said, he's off his rocker. I mean, for 4 years he's in India, he does nothing. I mean, he tries to meet the Mughal emperor, but he's not on the Mughal emperor's radar. But when you read the history around him, the historiography, wonderful diplomat, he's a great guy, and he's the stuff of which English diplomacy is made of. Whom are they talking about? And then I said, okay, that's how it began.
And when in a story, so this is about Thomas Rowe and a sort of an ego hassle that happens between him and the Mughal Nawab at that time, who is the general, right?
Yeah, he is actually the governor of Surat.
Governor, yeah. So who should visit who should pay their respects to the other one first is what the crux of the story is, and it's in a very satirical manner, as most of Upamanyu stories are. Is it also, while reading one gets a feeling, is it also a dig at bureaucracy now?
I haven't made any of it up. It's all there in Rowe's journal, but he just approaches the subject matter differently. And when I first read it, which is some decades ago, and now it's available on the net, I said, well, nothing has changed. It's just protocol. You call on me first. I can't call on you because you haven't called on me, and no one's actually doing any work.
Yeah.
Why are you charging me customs duty? I am a diplomat.
Yeah, it's just this, inane sort of fringe.
This superficial protocol stuff. And I said, well, that's the story.
As we all know, Upamanyu is also a top bureaucrat, and when one read English August, nobody thought that he would complete a full term, but he did. And so he's so these two big careers. I mean, how did you manage? I mean, would you think that you should have maybe devoted more time to writing and written more books?
That's a tricky question, because I certainly, in the last 3 years, I have certainly enjoyed writing much more, because there's none of that awful pressure of getting to work and preparing for that meeting, and those notes aren't ready. None of that. But at the same time, it's true that a life in the bureaucracy gave me material for at least 2 of my books. It also provided the material for my most well-known book. And it has taken care of Roti Kapda or Makan.
Yes.
It gives me a nice pension. So I am obviously very grateful. But touch wood, it's extremely nice to be retired.
I can imagine that. Is it in India still difficult to be only a writer?
Yeah, I should think so. That is, but if you're not a journalist also, if you're not writing a column and so on, then I should imagine that it should be difficult, because I would have found it impossible. I used to still write a book every 4 years, so you don't get that kind of money.
That's true. And you made Delhi your home. Though you traveled a hell of a lot elsewhere, and of course Calcutta is there a lot in the book, but Delhi is also there. There's a lot of Delhi in the book. In fact, there's a lot of Nizamuddin, and here we are sitting in the Humayun's tomb. So, what is your relationship with Delhi?
I grew up here by accident, in the sense my parents were, used to work for the government, so they were being transferred every 3 or 4 years. I was born in Patna. I moved out when I was 6 months old. So I grew up here, and it's been my home. And familiarity breeds both contempt and affection.
In this brilliant story called Foreigner, for instance, I mean, I wouldn't reveal too much of the plot. Actually, it is a little, again, plotless, but one wants to know, there's so many characters in such a short story. One would like to know what happened, what was, a little bit of backstory, then what happened to, say, Cecilia, one of the characters, so it seems like it could really be a bigger, I mean, what I mean is it's so compact. I mean, it's so distilled.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I see what you mean. Foreigners could have been longer, but I suppose the thread that ties it all together is the sense of being out of place.
Yeah.
And that you might spend, as lots of people have, you might spend decades in a place, in a country, and you feel very comfortable, but suddenly something happens and it's no longer home.
Yes.
Home is a very tricky thing. It's a very tricky feeling. So, Foreigner was well, I've enjoyed writing all of them, but Foreigner I enjoyed in particular because there was so much, as you indirectly point out, there was so much that I felt I should leave out.
Yes, yeah. That's true, and some of the stories. It seems it reads very easy, but one can imagine how much. Is there a lot of research that goes into it? I mean, it's because the historical facts, the dates, they are all absolutely correct. I mean,
No, I've had. I enjoy it. In fact, I bother my friends and family incessantly because I'm useless at research. So I just say, okay, this is what I want. And it's nice, in fact, because for reading, for history lesson, and stuff is just no longer available. I said, look, I just want to read the new Cambridge Economic History. Oh, it's out of print. Locate it, all that. It was great fun.
So it does. There is a lot of. I mean, before they come out like this,
lots and lots of research. for all of them. History lesson in particular took me 6 to 8 months, I think.
I can imagine. I just thought as much because it is so well. I mean, it's like really, you're transposed to that era, that time, and the little mannerisms, the food, the smells. It seems. I mean, it does say. I mean, it involves a lot of work. I mean, a lot of reading, a lot of thing about that period of that time. I know you wouldn't like to talk too much about it, but would you like to let us know what's your next book is going to be?
I'm still doing short stories that are again getting out of hand. So
these would again be what you have already. I mean, it's volume 1, so hopefully there'll be.
Will be volume 2.
So these are stories which are already written and there.
No, 2 of them are already. Not quite ready, but they have been published.
I see.
But I didn't include them in volume 1 because you know how it is. You read them for the second time and you cringe just a bit at certain places. So those I'll tweak a bit. A new one is ready and done with. Again, as I said, they decide their own length.
So the short story book is what you're working on right now.
Yeah.
And then there is a novel up ahead.
Yeah, I shouldn't do this. Yeah, there is a novel up ahead. I have to do something about justice.
Wow. Oh.
No, there's no wow. I just
no. That I'm sure a whole lot of people would be looking forward to what happens.
So I need to do something about it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Upamanyu. Thank you very much for being on Bibliofile. It's a pleasure, really.
No, thank you very much.
All the very much, and enjoy your retired life. It's and come out with many more such books.
Thank you so much.